Welcome to the Thrive Forever Fit Show. I'm your host, Jay Nixon, and this show is all about disruption, inspiration, and transformation. My purpose and passion behind doing this show is to give you information, resources, and knowledge to help you move to the next level of life, to help you live that life of abundance and awesomeness that I know that you desire and I know you deserve. And so what we're going to do with each and every episode is bring you an action-packed, detailed oriented, systematic approach to living your best life. Now, today's episode is sponsored by Thrive Elite Greens. Thrive Elite Greens is the best tasting, most electrifying, immune boosting supplement on the market today. I use it every single day to break my fast. One serving provides you with 12 to 15 servings of fruits and vegetables. And if you're anything like me, you don't even get close to the amount of fruits and veggies that you need on a daily basis. All you have to do is go to thriveforeverfit.com, click the shop button, scroll down. You'll see the Elite Greens along with all the other supplements that I offer. I promise you it is delicious, nutritious, and amazing for your body and your immune system as a whole. We're coming into that time of year, that season where people start to get a little down in the dumps with their immune systems, sicknesses and illnesses and all of those things. So do everything you can to fortify that with the nutrients you need to make yourself as healthy as you can possibly be. All right, guys, let's get to the show. Chris Saunders, my brother, how you doing today, man?
Man, I couldn't be better. If I were doing any better, I'd have a twin. That'd be a problem for everybody.
You know what? That'd probably be a problem for you. You're a pretty high energy dude. You might wear each other out. You know what, man? The first thing I want to ask you is one of the things that I love about you so much is your energy. And I love I don't know if you call it a tradition or whatever, but I love following your stories of when you got the kids in the car and you're taking them to school. And you know what I'm about to ask you. I mean, everybody else doesn't, but like, did you just one day decide to start that? How did that come about? Like, I love it. I think your 13-year-old maybe loves it sometimes, but not all the time. But I love how the kids interact with it. So explain to me how that came about. And then let's tell everybody what you do as when you get the kids and you're driving them to school, because I love it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I people comment on that quite a bit. Yeah. So, I mean, we're in a very seemingly relaxed society now, right? Yeah. Technology, God love it, but also God hate it. I mean, it has enabled so much, but I feel like it has removed, particularly with kids, that work ethic, that push to like dominate, right? And yeah. So every morning I decided like we're gonna be at war with that mediocrity at the Saunders house, right? And in school and in life. And so every morning, this started with my 13-year-old, by the way. So the school that I dropped my littles, we call them the littles, my littles off. I have a 7-year-old, about to be 9-year-old, and a 13-year-old. But it started when Ella, my 13-year-old, was, maybe in 4th grade or something like that. So she's been through this before.
Yeah, yeah.
Every morning I'm like, what are you going to do today? Dominate, right? And then now, we go through some other things. How you do anything is how you do everything.
Right.
In this family, we work hard and show grit. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And right. I'm trying to establish the fact that they can do anything that they want, right? And we know this, right? People are like, some people are all about college. Some people say college is a scam. And I think at this point in life, depending on what it is that you want to do, and I know you didn't say anything about college, I think, if you have a specialty you need to go get education on, you do that. But I feel like that you can literally do anything that you want to do with or without college.
Agreed.
There's masterclass, there's, all kinds of different programs. You got to be careful with the gurus and what have you, but there's all kinds of things that people can learn to do if they decide to do it. And I really believe it gets down to people having the desire to do it, and then the commitment to just dominate it. So I'm telling these kids every morning, I'm having them tell me they're going to dominate their day.
Yeah.
And we're known as that family at the school too, because not only do I have them say it before while they're in the car, while we're in the school line, but also I try to ask them again as they're getting out of the car, what are you going to do today? Dominate.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think it's like, I think the word programming has kind of a negative connotation because we're all societally being programmed in a horrible way right now. Yeah. So I think what you're doing is you're saying, hey man, we're not going to do that. We're going to take this program and plug it in. And that creates those neural pathways where I guarantee you, whenever they're in a situation, the first thought that comes to their mind is, I'm going to dominate this situation, as opposed to, right. It's like you said, I think social media is a gift and a curse. I think it's done so many great things for us, but it's also could be the biggest dumpster fire that we've ever created for ourselves. And I think there's not enough of that mindset of you can be, do, and have anything you desire. So I love the fact that you are instilling, I don't have kids, but I always say if I did, like, I call my metaphorical or my pretend kid Thor. I always say, Thor might not have any friends because he would be so different than everybody else. Like they'd be like, hey, Thor, you want to come? He wouldn't get invited to birthday parties or anything because he'd be all about domination and winning and just wanting to be the best version of himself. So I love that, man. I think that is something that I'm consistently preaching this because I deal with a lot of like weight loss and transformation and things of that nature. So I'm consistently trying to tell the parents, I'm like, listen, they are watching and emulating every single thing you do. And if you don't want to raise a kid that has to deal with obesity and weight problems and the teasing and the bullying and stuff like that, you got to get your stuff straight so they can get their stuff straight.
So the number one job I have is being a dad. Is being and I don't go by daddy. I'm daddy. I'm not a dad. Is to prepare them for life.
Yeah.
Like to prepare them at, age 18 or age 22, whether they go to college or not. And of course, we all want our kids to go to college, but we don't want our kids to go to college for little bullshit.
Yeah, like basket weaving
studies. Right. Like, let's find a path you want to be on. Let's find out what you need to get down that path and then go dominate it, right? But our job as parents is to prepare them for life. And so, owning a business all of these years, I have seen the mediocrity just go up like this. And it gets down to, and again, it's like technology is a gift or a curse. I really believe that that technology has removed a lot of the basics in life. And I feel like the number one thing that's going to be the sheer standout in the future is going to be work ethic or the two things, work ethic and initiative. Yeah. And so, the way you get to that is you show by example, right? Yeah. Let me give you an example of this. We just moved downtown. Like we moved from out in the country just a little bit to almost downtown. I have a really small yard. This is not the best use of my time, but we decided that I was going to cut the grass. It takes me 30 minutes to cut the grass, right? But it's not just going to be me. This just started like 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So I got an electric lawnmower and all this stuff. And by the way, I'm a blue collar guy. I am not above doing anything. Right. To my own detriment sometimes. I do things that I shouldn't do because I'm built to work.
Yeah.
But the reason why I did that is it only takes me 30 minutes, right? I want my kids to see me cutting the grass, and I want my kids to cut the grass to establish that work ethic.
Yeah.
Right.
Love that.
Clearly, depending on, how much you make or whatever your goals are, or whatever, again, I know some people will listen to this and be like, well, that's not the best use of your time. It is the best use of my time if I'm teaching a lesson, right? Like I came, again, blue collar family, everybody was always working with their hands, right? I'm not in that. I'm in the technology. I'm in the mobile technology business. I'm not working with my hands.
Right.
So I have to do things that they see. Daddy does this and daddy does that. I mean, I have to teach my son to be a man.
Yeah.
Right. And a man just handles things. They take care of things. And, when you have a life where other people are constantly taking care of things, and don't get me wrong, those are nice to haves, they aren't required, but there has to be some way that they can see not everybody pays other people to do things all the time, if that makes sense.
I love it. I want to drive that point home. Like I grew up, my father was killed when I was 5. And so my mother was my role model. I appreciate that, man. But I'm telling you, I wouldn't be the man I am today if that hadn't happened to me. But my mother we lived on a farm whenever my dad was killed. And so we had a lot of things to mow and cut and weed eat. And my mom didn't hire anybody to do it. She went out there and went to work. And so I remember as a little kid, like I was barely big enough to push the lawnmower. Like I had to, hands were over my head, but I'm like, if my mom is doing that, that means I need to be doing that. And so she doesn't have to. And I'm 5, 6, 7 years old. And I remember that like it was yesterday, man. And so that was something that was ingrained into my brain. So I think you're 100% right. And it's not about that it is a valuable use of your time, because you're teaching all 3 of your kids that like, hey, we're not above anything. And when work needs to be done, work needs to be done. And you said something very important, like you're teaching your son how to be a man. I think we've got it way away from that in our world today, whereas like, it's not even safe to be a man anymore. And so I think, hats off to you for understanding that needs to be taught, man. So I think that's a valuable lesson. I love that.
Yeah.
Story.
I mean, so I cut the grass. So I got the lawnmower 2 weeks ago. I cut the grass one time. It's got to be cut again this weekend. I'm not going to cut it.
Right.
I'm going to help my son,
right.
my daughter, like they're all going to get a turn.
Yeah.
And they're all, I mean, like, I came from the country and we had a ton of pine cones. And so my dad was a long haul truck driver. So my mom essentially did most of my raising, let's say. And I always say the same thing as like my mama raised me right. She gave me chores. I went out there and picked up pine cones. The house that we moved from to move closer into downtown Raleigh, it had like 40 pine trees there.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait to cut those things. They were gone. I mean, I picked up so many pine cones when I was a kid. I'm like, it was a good experience for my kids to do it. But yeah, man, work ethic is, I really believe it's going to be the differentiator in the future, because everybody's taking the easy road because technology has made it easy.
And I think I want to drive home this point as well. I mean, I know a little bit about your wife. Seems to be an amazing, you guys seem to be very much in unison.
Badass. She's a complete badass. Let me just throw that out there.
I agree with you. I love everything about her. Have you guys always been on that same page as far as like the domination mindset and like get things done and how it's going?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I used to, my first marriage didn't work out, and it's because we were so different. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, listen, people become who they're supposed to be. They're raised the way that they're raised. And sometimes you don't realize how different you are until, much later on. And, but Leanne and I it's crazy how identical we are. That whole opposites attract thing, I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. So yeah, I mean, Leanne came from the same kind of background that I did, and she took a different path in her adult. She went through the hotel business, so she learned how to manage hotels and operations and guest services and all that stuff. And she worked a lot of long hours. So that work ethic is also instilled in her.
Yeah.
And that woman, I've never seen anyone just take action like that woman does. It's people just don't know, man. If we had someone following her around with a camera, I mean, it would just blow people's minds how much she does and how quickly she does it. Like, I'm still, like, she says I'm the hardest working person that she knows, but I'm gonna tell you something. She's the hardest working person that I know, and she's the one who instantaneously takes action like anyone else I've ever seen before. And that's not because I'm trying to get on a good side. I stay on the good side.
No, I agree. I mean, I follow both you guys, and I definitely, you're preaching the truth there. How important do you think that is for the success of of the whole thing, right? Of the big equation of the kids and the business. And I mean, because being an entrepreneur is challenging to say the least. How vital is that you've got a piece of the puzzle with you that is in such unison and synergistic, approach?
I could continue to do it without her, but it would be exponentially harder. And I say that because I was probably in business for like 7 years. I'm trying to think here. Prior to her, prior to us getting together. And these last 10 years, something like that, 10 years, has just been so much better because, and don't get me wrong, we've had 2 downturns during that time. 2014, we had a downturn for just a perfect storm of things. It's not always, sunshines and rainbows, right?
No.
And then last year we had a downturn for obvious reasons, right? And she has made it so much easier for me to develop the confidence that I have the support system to push through these things.
Yeah.
I mean, hats off to people who are not married and they've ran a business all these years and everything. I can tell you it is exponentially easier to run a business when you have your other half that is 1,000% on the same page.
Yeah.
We don't question each other. She's like, my intuition says we should do this. Boom, we're going to do that. I think we should do this. Boom, we're going to do that. I mean, and we just throw all the support that we have behind each other and we just make it work, man. I mean, I truly feel like I'm the luckiest man alive. And again, I'm saying all this stuff, not to try to get on her good side. It's just the truth. I mean, when you have someone that is 1,000% by default on the same page as you,
right?
I mean, the sky's the limit. And where we're going because of the relationship that we have and because of the blind trust that we have. I mean, dude, we're going to do some big things this next half of our lives. So
I love that. I mean, I'm in the same position you are. I consider myself to be the luckiest person on the planet. My significant other is exactly the same way. And I always try to get people to understand the value in that, like of having that relationship that is so, and like you said, it's not all perfect all the time, but when you're on the same page and you both have the same vision and the same mission and the same outcome for life, it just makes everything else so much easier. And I think that's where a lot of relationships go south, is that, you kind of get in those places and spaces where the two don't understand each other's long-term vision. And that can create a lot of riff and a lot of problem. Let's talk about this, because I think, people get this idea, because I've kind of shifted back to the social media technology world. I mean, it's a highlight reel, for lack of a better term, for a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like you mentioned earlier, like the gurus of like, I've had a few situations that have come in front of me, and I want you to kind of expand on this. I'll see people online, right? And it's like, oh my God, must be amazing. And then they'll actually reach out to me, or I'll actually know them, and the story will be infinitely different. Like, I'm about to go out of business. I'm struggling with my relationships. I'm struggling with my own belief system. But just 30 minutes before that, they posted, my life is amazing. Follow me, do what I say to do, and your life can be like my life. And I'm like, but I just read, you just said, what if I posted that on Facebook under your post? How would you feel about it? Why are we doing that, Chris? Because one of my core values is I will be who I am right here, right there, over here, over there, Wednesday, Tuesday. I don't care where it is, when it is. I'll never say anything that's not authentically me. And I feel like you're the same way. I don't know you well enough to say I can, but I guarantee you're the same way, just because I follow your stuff, and you're somebody who admits when it's this and when it's that. Like, I mean, just what are your thoughts on that as somebody with kids and all that whole 9 yards? Like, what do you think about that whole situation?
My thought on that is I despise fakeness.
Oh, me too.
Like, I'm allergic to, I blurted that out one time. I'm allergic to being fake. I mean, if you follow me, so there was a period where I was just MIA, and if I'm not feeling it, I won't post. I won't do it. I won't feed a bunch of fake crap out there, because I mean, I don't have a whole lot of followers, but the people that I do have pay attention. And I started posting again recently, and posting isn't a job. I mean, like it's just, but I feel like we have a duty. If you can take an experience, if you take a thought process and you feel that it could benefit other people, it's our duty to put that out there. It just is. And, I went through this really dark period earlier in the year. It was the second time I've had depression in my adult life, and this time was really tough. And it was again kind of a perfect storm of a lot of things that came together. Yeah. but I put it out there. I'm like, listen, depression is horrible. Like, I mean, this was the darkest period of my life. And a lot of people are like, what, you, Chris Saunders? Like,
Right.
no, dude, we all go through it. And people that try to claim that they don't, and good for them that they don't, but do they really not go through it? Like, because I really believe that we have to be authentic. You know, I cannot stand those, I wouldn't say those people, but what you just mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, everything's good, but everything's falling apart.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, the highlight reel is just the highlight reel. I wanted to quit 2 times in the last 2 weeks. Like, I'm not going to. I've wanted to quit 1,000 times in the last 17 years I've been in business, but I'm not a quitter.
Right.
You know, like, I'm not a quitter. Complex problems that have to be solved require, you know, a lot of mental capacity. And whenever you're just going on the hamster wheel all day long and you got a big problem, it's easy to look at it and be like, it's not again. I don't want to do this anymore. I could go work for someone else. But I'm not a quitter.
Yeah.
And I'm not just going to put out there, I want to quit.
Right.
But I'm just not going to talk about it. I'm going to deal with it and I'm going to keep moving on, you know?
Hey, if you don't mind, man, I think, I mean, I feel like a lot of people are in where maybe you've been.
Yeah.
And they say to themselves, like, well, I don't even know what the first thing to do is, or the second, or much less the 10th thing to do to just start to feel better. And I want to preface this by saying you are, I mean, I would classify you as a pretty positive, pretty, you know, dude, ready to go. Like, you know, hey, I know
I got one gear, baby. It's go. I tell people that all the time.
Yeah, you're all gas, no brake, right? And so, you know, with that said, I think it would be valuable if you're willing to share, like, what are just maybe 1 or 2 or 3 things that you did when you were in that dark place, as you described, to get closer to the light? Just practical things, man, that people could do when they feel that way.
So first things first, I got right with God. Okay. You know, I was raised in you know, I was raised Southern Baptist. God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, fire and brimstone, lake of fire, like all of that. Right. Yeah. And it was a little overwhelming as a kid in church, just hearing those things. And listen, my parents are still devout Southern Baptists. And I mean, their religion and their values associated with religion, I mean, it really made me who I am. Yeah. Right. But I kind of was like, maybe this is maybe supposed to be different. Right. So I kind of got away from that for years and years and years. But I know I've always been a good person. But so God, I got right with God, and I got right with God through my friends. Right. So God, the right friends.
I was going to ask you, what does that mean? What does that mean?
So so let's frame this out. So number 1, I got right with God. Without God, you know, pretty much nothing's possible. Number 2, having the right support system with Leanne and my wife. Number 3 is having the right peer group. And then number 4 is getting your nutrition and fitness in line. Okay. So I had a really rough weekend. You know, when I was going through this period, I would go during the day, like, because you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you got to go, right? And then at night, whenever we got finished with the day, the kids were down, you know, the last few emails and everything were responded to, and then we would lay down, and Leanne would say, so how you feeling? How you doing? And that's whenever I would just lose it or whatever, right? Yeah. Well, I had a really bad weekend. I'm talking really bad. And I called a few friends that I have, right, that I know, love, and trust. Brian Hess, Brad Modrich, and Nehemiah Curtin. And these are 3 Arte guys. And you know, I talked to all 3 of them kind of about what I was going through, and they all had the same exact response. And that's, man, you need to give it to God. You need to get right with God. You need to give it to God. You need to let God handle it. And then you need to be at peace with this, because you're not in control. And, you know, when you have 3 people like that, that you look up to, that are successful, that are good human beings. And they all three say the same exact thing, because they all three went through similar situations that I was going through. And they all three said, once I decided to give it to God, my life instantaneously got better.
Let me
and
pause.
You know what, Jay?
Yeah.
That is exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened.
I want to pause you because I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Are you normally a vulnerable guy like that? And were you, and I assume that you were authentically vulnerable with these three conversations.
Yeah.
Are you normally like that on a daily basis? Because for men, sometimes that's a hard thing to do, right? For me, I'm uber vulnerable. I think it's because of my past and what I've kind of grown to and through.
Yeah.
But how are you usually in a situation? Are you usually vulnerable? Or do you usually hold that in?
I'm pretty transparent. I'm pretty the first one to say, I messed that up, or one of the most challenging and most embarrassing things that I deal with still on a daily basis is lack of organization. And I really believe that my lack of organization comes from my go, go, go. Mm-hmm. I'm an energy guy, right? Yeah. And so I am always, talking with, various people about how they keep it together and that type of stuff. And, so there's a lot of things that people just kind of, they see my highlight reel and they assume that I have it all together and that, I'm always positive. And I'm going to tell you, man, like that depression almost put me under, man. It was rough, but I got right with God through my friends. And I've always known I've needed to be right. I mean, look, they call people like me backslidden, and so I've always known that I needed to do that. And honestly, for my family needs it, more than ever, with the world and the situation that it's in. I started 75 hard. Okay. And I mean, within 2 weeks, I mean, I had, there's more, right? But I started 75 hard, but within 2 weeks, I felt like a completely different person. So nutrition and fitness were in check. I've been in, I was going through pretty intense therapy during the time. And I'm not talking about, and no offense to anyone who's in the Blue Cross Blue Shield network, we're not talking about a $40 copay therapist. We're talking about a specialist who focuses specifically in entrepreneurs. Her name's Heather, and she's unbelievable. So all of those things brought me out of it. And I'll never go there again. And I can tell you why I'll never go there again. It's because I went through it. Things happen to you or for you. Most people allow things to happen to them and they dwell on it and that type of stuff. Yeah. But there's a small percentage of us, and I had to learn this the hard way, that will look at things and say, that happened for me. What did I learn? Yeah. Right? Well, number one, I learned my relationship with God needs to be on point, and it needs to be a direct relationship. Okay. Number two, I've got to continue to surround myself. Leanne is here by default. She can't get rid of me. I'm like an old stray dog. She can run me to the edge of the yard, but I'll be back on the porch. So Leanne, having that right support system in the house is good. Therapy, and then, fitness and nutrition. It's amazing. And this, it's amazing what will happen to someone when they start eating right and they start exercising. Yeah. And they do it consistently enough to where it starts to click. That's what, and it takes about 2 weeks. Oh, yeah, it takes about 2 weeks. Yeah. And about 2 weeks after I made the decision to not only get right with God, but to work on, to get myself back in shape and get my fitness back together, I felt like a completely different person. And I haven't, what's interesting is, and again, we'll be vulnerable here. I cried more tears in like a 90 to 120 day period. Tears of sorrow through a 90 to 120 day period. I cried more tears then than I have my entire life. Since then, I've only cried tears of joy, where I've gotten really excited. I've been very proud of what the comeback that I've made, proud of the opportunities, proud of, where the business is going. And I just look back and sometimes I just get so overwhelmed with emotion that the tears just come. And it's not because I'm not crying about how hard it is. I'm crying about the opportunity. It's crazy. Yeah. So I really believe I was able to really get in touch with my inner self a lot more. It's been needed for decades. Yeah. So.
Something I wrote down when you were saying all that is, and I think this is a great point. You changed as opposed to just changing the situation. So I think what a lot of people do in this scenario is they try to change the situation, right? They'll change the they'll try to change the environment. And what they don't realize is we take ourselves with us everywhere we go. And so you said something very powerful. You said, I'll never go back there again.
Never.
And I think the reason you can say that with conviction is because you evolved and changed, as opposed to simply just changing the situation. Because as you and I both know, there's going to be other situations. There's going to be other opportunities for you to either A, go through this thing again, or B, handle it in a different fashion because of who you've grown and evolved into be. So I just want to recap. So I think vulnerability was probably one of the greatest gifts that you had that allowed you to come out of this, because you were able to pick the phone up and call those 3, circle of success peer group members. Everybody got on the same page. You realized that you weren't in ultimate
same
control.
Exact statements, by the way.
Yeah.
Different people.
Yeah.
Give it to God.
Yeah.
Give it to God.
And I think we get those messages a lot and we overlook them, right? It would have been very easy for you to have been like, okay, guys, appreciate you, hang up, appreciate you, hang up. But you actually heard the messages, listened to them, and actually did the implementation into that. And then you started treating your body and your brain with respect through, I think a lot of people get confused about fitness and nutrition. Like, I think when you hear those words, you think, oh, well, that, the guy at the pool with the 6-pack and oh, look at that guy, he's in shape. That's not what fitness and nutrition is about. It's way more than that. It's about you respecting yourself. And then through that, you can do, and have anything you want. Like, it's hard to respect yourself in business and in your relationships and everything else if you don't have enough self-respect to treat yourself, with love.
The two are connected.
Totally.
They really are. I mean, I was talking with Leanne this morning, like, I need to ramp it up. I need to start running more so that I can get the stress that I'm under right now. Like, I need to get it out. Everything begins and ends right here.
Yeah.
The stress that I have right now needs to be released.
I agree.
How am I going to release that? I'm going to run. Right.
People always ask me, like, what do you do when it gets heavy? And so I'm lucky enough, I own my own gym. In my office, I have my Peloton. So it's like, I have trained myself that in the face of chaos, overwhelm, adversity, I move my body first. It's the first thing I do. I don't try to solve the problem. I don't try to navigate around it. I'm just like, okay, you move your body, and then we'll figure out the rest of it. And it has been one of the most pivot. And move your body doesn't mean you have to go around a 5K. It could be simply walking around the building.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I love that, man. I love that you were vulnerable enough, to do those things you did to get yourself out of those places, and that you have that group of people that will, that help guide you and whatever. And I see behind you, you've got the word core values written on the wall. I mean, for me, here's what I think about core values. I just think about them in the vein of this, like, it's how I make all my decisions. And if I get a question and I don't necessarily know the answer immediately, all I have to do is plug it into my core values, and it will spit the answer out to me. I don't even need to be smart. I just have to say, is it in alignment with my core values? Talk to me about that. Like, how important are those to you? And are those your personal, business, or both?
They're both. Both.
I love that.
So go the extra mile.
Mm-hmm.
Always be grateful. Do the right thing. Urgency is essential, and create a positive impact. Like, those are our core values at Integrated. Those are my core values. I ran this company for so many years without any kind of core values and that type of stuff. I was just a sales guy who wanted to not work in corporate America, but still wanted to be in the mobility space. And, it wasn't until I got into the Arte Syndicate, when I got surrounded by some of the people that I mentioned. Yeah. But Andy and Ed and all the things that we've learned, that, I mean, I've just completely transformed this company, and I've transformed personally as well. And so now, I mean, these are paramount.
Yeah,
like,
you live
these core values. Like, this is who we are, and they're in all my presentations. Like, I'm proud of those core values because we are trying to do the right thing and create an impact. We're not just sourcing a product. We're trying to provide an experience. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people think about core values like, hey, that's cute. It goes on a business card or on your website or on the wall. But there's a difference when you actually live by those values, and like all your decisions are predicated on those. And your entire team. And when I say team, it could be your family, it could be the work thing. And I love the fact that you use both for both, because I'm the same way. My business core values are my life core values, because for me, I have to be that same version of Jay both places. I don't get to pick and choose when I show up, right?
I am who I am, regardless of where I'm at or who I'm in front of. I mean, I talk to everybody like they're my cousin. No one's better than me. I'm not better than them. We're all people just trying to make it, trying to make a positive impact.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
I want to finish, man, by circling back to the first thing we talked about, and that's the domination mindset, because I think some people hear the word domination, they're like, oh gosh, you shouldn't do that, because then you and I both know that's not what we're talking about. So explain to me, like, what does domination mean to you?
Well, for me, domination, so like it means this: nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to do it for you. The money isn't going to show up on your front porch, okay, unless you win the lottery or you get some kind of inheritance. Your schoolwork isn't going to do itself. If you've got a test and you know you've got a test, you better put in the work to make sure that you're successful at that test. The grass isn't going to mow itself. It gets down to this: making a decision. I mean, it started with, what are you going to do today, Dominic? And then it's how you do anything is how you do everything. And I try to break that down with Will, with his mind. He likes to do Minecraft. I'm like, I want you to do your schoolwork like you do your Minecraft. Ella's great at makeup. Okay, what's the best thing that you do? Makeup. Okay, cool. I want you to do your schoolwork like you do the make. Do it the same level of intensity, the same level of commitment. And those are just small examples, but it's like, if you're gonna do it right. If you're gonna do it, go as hard as you can. Yeah. And the rest will take care of itself. So for me, dominating is just doing the best that you could possibly do, certainly better than you were yesterday. So like, for instance, Ella just got her test scores back, and it was just a couple points under an A. And she's like, I'm so sorry I didn't get an A. And I'm like, Ella, baby, you did great. Okay. All we have to do is try to be better than we were yesterday. Yeah. Be better on the next test that you were on this one. Right. So, that to me is what dominating is. It isn't, walking in and like on Step Brothers, whenever they do the joint interview, it isn't walking in and getting the piles of paper or whatever. It's just knowing that you gave everything that you could give.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's an internal thing. I just launched a podcast this week, and it's called The Enemy of Excellence. And I think the enemy of excellence is great, and the enemy of great is good. And in my opinion, like where I am today, and this is kind of how I view the world, is great is simply just average now, right? And like good is, holy crap, like I don't want anything to do with that. And so if I get rid of both of those, and everything I do has that excellence level of commit, because I have some of the same beliefs. I say ABR all the time, like always be ready, right? And if you're always ready, you've got that domination mindset, and you're not going to settle for anything less than excellence from yourself. So that's where it all starts, is like that internal level of excellence. And then once you do that, then you stop it. You stop tolerating less than excellence from everything else, and your world just expands and gets so much more amazing and so much more awesome. Dude, you're a rock star, man. I wanted to have you on because I love the energy. I love your domination mindset. I love what you're doing with your kids. I think you are, if I had to say, hey man, this is a good dude, good dad, all those things, like you'd be on that poster. So,
oh, dude, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I mean, look, I'm just living life and being real.
I love that.
And when I get an opportunity to capture certain things, I do, and I don't always remember to post or be like, dang, I should have caught that on video or whatever. But
you know what, man, but the right people are seeing it, and that's those kids, and that's the people that are in your internal circle, and Leanne and all that. So, I love it when you post, because first of all, you make me laugh, which I love to be entertained. And then there's always a message behind it. Like whenever you do the thing with the kids in the car, I do it with them. I'm like, what are you going to do today? I'm like, dominate. So let the kids know that there's a joker out in California, man, from Texas, who's mouthing the same words. So I'm going to call Chris in the morning and be like, hey man, you mind going over that with me?
Oh, bro, I appreciate that. Like, seriously, I there's no money in it for me. No. Right. I just do it because I know who I used to be. Yeah. And I know where I came from, and where I came from made me who I am. And I just don't want my kids and I want them to skip a few levels because they have the mindset that I didn't have at a much earlier age.
Yeah.
You know, and if I can do that for them, they're going to excel far beyond the mediocrity that they're surrounded by. And that's my job, brother. I can run a business. I can exit from multiple millions. But at the end of the day, did I get those 3 humans ready for life?
Yeah, it's your obligation.
Period.
100%.
It is. It is the biggest responsibility, and it's my biggest mission. So if I can have them every day pledge allegiance to that flag, or say, you know, I'm going to dominate. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Like, that is what it's about. Because if I don't get them ready and they're failures, I failed.
Yeah, I agree with you, man.
So
I agree with you. I mean, you know what, we got lucky. We, you know, 2 Southern mothers, you know, doing what they did, probably crafted us to be able to do what we do today. And we didn't even know it at the time, right? Like, we were just, you know, a couple of probably little jokers doing the things.
I tell everybody that asks me, I was raised right. And I was.
Yeah.
I was raised right. I respect my elders. I'm always thankful, and I work hard.
Yeah.
These are 3 things that my mama taught me, and it never left me. And it's my job to do the same thing with them, but mix in the mindset that I've picked up over the last, you know, 5 years being around Arte and all that stuff.
Well, and let's, I don't want to miss this point too. I think you make it fun too, man. Like, when I see their faces when you say that, they're like, my dad's crazy, man, but I love this dude. And I love that about the energy that you have with your kids. So I want to drive that point home. I think what you're doing with that little tiny thing is massively impactful. Because like I said, I don't even have kids, but I think into my brain when I see that. And I know, so there's people with kids that are like, you know what, maybe I could do a little more of that. You know what I mean? And if we can get a little more of that, man, in the world that we're living in today, like, I mean, that can't do anything but bring positivity and awesomeness to it. So
well, yeah, I'll just close out with this one thing, just to kind of demonstrate the fact that it's working. So my son Will is all about Minecraft. And I'm like, we need to be all about cutting that grass and not like, you know, being constantly, you know, in sports and everything. And sports and everything is just jacked up since COVID. So yeah, I gotta do something to get him competitive and to develop work ethic. But he was talking to Bailey in the back of the car, and he's like, it's too hard. I can't create this server or whatever. And Bailey says to him, it just melted my heart. I caught this in real time. She said, Will, nothing's too hard. All you have to do is keep trying. And I'm like, this is my 8-year-old about to be 9-year-old. And it just made me so proud. And like, I wasn't even involved in the conversation. They were just chit-chatting in the back on the way to school. And I was like, yes. You know, and then, you know, again, with Ella saying, hey, I didn't make an A, but I was just like, she knows that she needs to push harder. So it's starting to work, but it's not easy. It requires consistency like anything else. So anyway.
I love it, dude. Hey, man, I appreciate your vulnerability, your honesty, your enthusiasm, your awesomeness. And thanks for doing the show. I know there's going to be some massive value taken from this, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. And
love it.
You know, when someone says, hey, I got this or that from what you put out there, that, I mean, that's the reason why I do it. I mean, it's the reason why I do it. You know, I mean, again, there's no paycheck for putting out motivational posts.
No, do you know what the paycheck for this episode, man, is going to be? You change somebody else's life just with your vulnerability and honesty. And I thank you, brother, for coming on the show. Guys, thank you for listening to the Thrive Forever Fit Show. We'll be back next week with another awesome episode. Chris, love you, brother. You're awesome, man.
You too, man. Appreciate you.
Guys, thanks for listening to that episode. Chris is an amazing dude. His vulnerability is unbelievably awesome. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did. If you did, please like, subscribe, share, do all the amazing things to help more people hear the message of amazing people like Chris that I know is going to change somebody's life. Also, guys, go to thriveforeverfit.com, scroll down. There's going to be a giant orange button that says Join the Wellness Lab Launchpad. It's my free Facebook group. It's for anybody and everybody who is looking for a safe place to get information and content, much like Chris's episode on fitness, nutrition, mindset, and all the things that makes life more awesome for all of us. Again, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with another Rockstar episode. Love you, and we'll see you soon.